Hello everybody and welcome to the digitally downloaded Tuesday evening retro stream where we play the classics that we loved as we were growing up and perhaps discovered a little bit later on but are on older systems. And over the last couple of weeks we have been playing Fire Emblem, the classic GBA game and the first of the Fire Emblem series that ever made its way out to the West. There were Fire Emblem titles beforehand. The series has been going back as far as the original NES, but Nintendo never saw the reason to localize them until this one, and as a result, it turned out to be very popular. And since then, the series has gone from strength to strength. But we've been playing the original as far as the West has been concerned, and we've been having a pretty good time with it. So we're going to give people a moment or two to jump on if they want to come and say hello as we play, and then we'll get stuck into it. We've made some pretty good progress over the last couple of weeks. I think we're about 5 or 6 missions in, or quests in, or levels in, whatever you want to describe them as. And yeah, we're making some pretty good progress with Lynn's story. Lynn being the central character, at least, of the start of Fire Emblem. And the reason that a lot of people like Fire Emblem, actually, including me, I got into it in a big way because Lynn was such a great character, and I've never looked back. I've become a really big fan of Fire Emblem. It all started here, so it's been very nostalgic to play through it again, and I've been having a great time. So we'll give people a moment or two, like I said, and then we'll get going with the stream. Hello, Sean. Welcome to the stream. It's always good to have you on. What are you talking about? The DS era had one good Fire Emblem, the remake of the NES one, Shadow Dragon. I enjoyed that one a great deal. So that was the only one we actually got here in Australia. I don't know what it was like over in America or whatever. But yeah, we only got one Fire Emblem on the DS in Australia. And it was released in such tiny quantities. I actually nearly missed out on Shadow Dragon as well. I only managed to pick it up in some Toys R Us, which in Australia never really carried that many games, but for whatever reason they had one copy of this thing when I just happened to look in there one day, and I was not going to miss out on that opportunity, so I grabbed it. It's actually quite rare. It's probably worth quite a bit of money, actually, the Australian copy I've got. It was a good game. I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, Nintendo was so spotty with the Fire Emblem series for so long. I don't know about, again, America, but the GameCube one was actually released in incredibly small quantities in Australia as well. Very hard to get that one. I had to pre-order it. But I heard that a lot of other people had a lot of trouble getting it, and it was amazing, of course. So, yeah, it's only really with the 3DS and onwards that I think Nintendo has cottoned on to the idea that people quite like Fire Emblem and want to play these games. So good on Nintendo for finally realising that, but hopefully at some stage they take a punt and find some way to bring across all the other ones that we've missed out on or have barely been able to find copies of. But anyway, let's get into it, shall we? Let's play games. That's why we do these streams, to play video games. And as nice as this little animation sequence at the start, which explains the story background is, all those lovely pixel arts on the GBA, this thing actually looked a whole lot more impressive, I think, on the actual GBA screen because it was the right resolution and the fuzziness that you see in that. It wasn't quite as obvious on the GBA screen. But yeah, other than that, it's very lovely art. But we're here to play games. So, where were we up to? Restart chapter. We're up to chapter 6. 3.5 hours to get to chapter 6, so about half an hour per chapter attempt. Haven't had a die yet. When you die, you have to restart the entire chapter from scratch. So I'm sure that'll probably happen soonish, actually. We start getting to missions where it's actually possible to fail if you're not careful. Quite soon. So, Lynn. Lynn is off on her journey again. Lovely green-haired Lynn. Maybe the whole Miku thing that I have is because of Lynn, because she got me into the green hair. That might be it, actually. Although Lynn doesn't have twin tails, it's nice, long, lovely green hair. Okay, so for people who may have missed the last couple of streams and tune into this later or come across it on a replay later on down the track and haven't watched the first two, Lynn's on this journey to go and meet her grandfather. She didn't realise she had a grandfather. She thought she was the only person left in her family after her parents were killed by bandits, and she never actually found out who she was and where she came from, but she discovered that she's actually the granddaughter of a lord of a, I guess, a state within the world, and she's off to try and meet him. She's in a race against time, though, because her uncle or great uncle or something is looking to kill the grandfather. He's a very nasty fella and take control, and he needs to off Lynn so there's no challenge to his throne. Dillyram has not come along yet. I'm sure he'll pop in soon enough. I hope so anyway. He always adds some flavour to the chat, that's for sure. I'm still not sure about that grammar. The Marquesses. Shouldn't it just be two S's and then the apostrophe? I don't know. Grammar was never my strongest point, which is odd as to say as a journalist and author, but that's not how I would do it. But maybe I'm wrong. Wouldn't be the first time I've guessed wrong when it comes to grammar. I shouldn't be admitting that on the stream, but I am. I'm not great at the grammar thing. Blood of Pride. This is actually a really neat map. I like this one. I'm glad this is the first map of the stream tonight. What city is this? This is Arafin. I wish Sane would stop showing up in cutscenes though. Perv. All of Sane's conversations should be replaced by Dorcas or something, I reckon. One thing I would love to see them do, and Nintendo probably won't because Nintendo's quite convinced that Fire Emblem is, I guess, its big equivalent of the AAA the AAA franchise for Nintendo these days, I guess. So they won't take that kind of risk. But I would love to see Nintendo take one of these older Fire Emblem games and just HD up the sprites, but leave it as a 2D sprite-based game. A little like what they did with the remake of Langrisser earlier this year, and just throw that out, because even this one I would just love to see what they could do if they used the super high quality sprites of I don't know, Langrisser or that Octopath Traveler or something like that, those really high quality 2D sprites with really slick animation. I would love to see a Fire Emblem use that rather than the 3D models that they're kind of stuck on with the newer games. That would be really neat. Yeah, exactly. I don't think we'd see it if they were to do a remake of, say, this one. we'd see Lyn in very lovely 3D character models and stuff, which also I would not be opposed to by any means. I wouldn't mind a 3D remake of one of the older Fire Emblems. I really love the artwork and the quality of the sprites and the colour that they get into these earlier Fire Emblem games, and it's a bit of a pity that we won't see that again from this series, because it had a very strong personality and sprites are not bad. I know the industry seems to think that unless you're an indie developer you can't use sprites, but they're a very lovely aesthetic. I'm pretty sure that's as close as Lyn gets to flirting. I think she's got a thing for Kent because he's so reliable and he's so stoic. Unlike Sane. Sane's so needy. He can't have Kent complimented without him needing a compliment as well. What a loser. What a dweeb. Oops. I accidentally skipped through that dialogue. Sorry about that. The castle is burning and there are people attacking. So Lyn's once again caught up in dramas and she's now going to need to deal with more dudes. These ones are of course sent by Lundgren, the uncle that I mentioned earlier, and they're going to kill Lyn, or they're meant to try to anyway. And she's now, and I guess that castle that they're trying to get supplies for and support from, that castle is kind of caught in the middle. And another lovely sprite. No, sorry, key art. Another lovely key art. Once again, as pixelated as it is, the quality of the art is incredible, and that's not just because that's a good shot of Lyn's leg. It's good art, I'm telling you. It's very, very lovely setting the scene. It would have been nice if every kind of chapter had some kind of key art like this. But as the game gets into a more established rhythm, it uses less of these, unfortunately. They probably had the intention to use a lot more, but got pulled back, by time towards the end. Back on the development on the GBA days. Very stylish bandana there. Nice earring too. And he shoots arrows. He's an archer from the back of the horse. That's pretty neat. What I love is basically all of the characters, all the people that come from this plains, they all have green hair. And that seems to be a characteristic across the entire ethnic group, and that's pretty neat. I like that. Hello, Neo, and welcome to the stream. Is this the first time you've joined us? I haven't seen you commented before, but I'm not sure if you've been lurking from time to time as well. It's great to have you on, and yes, it's enjoyable doing these streams. I'm having good fun, especially with the retro one, I find. I don't know, it's good fun playing retro old games, getting nostalgic and talking about it as I play. And do keep sending me all your sketches as you do on Twitter. I'm really enjoying seeing your art. You've got a really lovely style with your sketching. Okay, so that was a bit of a reunion of sorts. Lynn and this new guy Wrath, they've decided that because they're from the same part of the world, they must be friends. So they've teamed up to take on the Marauders, which are putting to fire the castle and have captured the Marquis. And we're actually being introduced to another dude right here. He's a handsome fella. I guess there's always the expat alliance. It's funny, there was this one time I went to Gifu in Japan, which is, for people who aren't so familiar with Japanese cities outside of the major ones, Gifu is a small little city down, well, it's partway between, I guess, partway between Tokyo and Osaka. It's about an hour away from Nagoya, actually. Anyway, it's a city of only about 1 million people. It's not big, it's not a major city or anything. And I was there travelling around because the battleground for Sekigahara, which is a really important battleground in the during the Sengoku era, that was there, and I wanted to check it out. So we were in Gifu, wandering around, just looking for what we could see. And we walked down the main street, where all the restaurants and stuff were. And there was like 1,000 Australian flags just hanging up everywhere. Which of course caught my attention as an Aussie, and I went and had a look inside, and it was an Australian bar which had AFL, which is our national football thing. It had AFL blazing on the TVs, and there was this dude there, and he was obviously an Aussie expat. That must be the one Australian in all of Gifu that's decided to set up this bar there. And he had VBs and all the other nasty Australian beers, which when you're in Japan for a while, they actually taste pretty good. And yeah, we were instant best friends. So it definitely works that way, that when you meet somebody foreign in a city that, you know, is not native to either of you, you end up having a pretty good time catching up. Anyway, that was enough of a little story session. Let's get back to the game. Secret passageways. I do like secret passageways. I wouldn't say that, Neo. I'd say that your sketches certainly have your own style to them. I wouldn't want to try and describe it, but it's certainly, all of your art has a very distinct, you know, theme to it in terms of the way that you approach it. So you can definitely see that coming through. You may say that you're practicing, but I think your sense of aesthetics and tone and structure is already there. So keep at it. But yeah, I would say that you've definitely got a distinct style of your own. I hear so many Canadians that approach me. That's that was my response when last year we came across a bunch of Australians that were there for the Rugby World Cup, and you could tell that they were Australian rugby fans. So I wasn't so keen on hanging out with them. But a dude that was living in Gifu had moved to Japan. That was an intriguing story, and I figured that he was a little bit more culturally attuned, so we could get along. We had a really good chat. I certainly recommend, and this is probably the one time he's ever had a plug on a stream, but I certainly recommend that if you do find yourself in Gifu in Japan, go and look for this Australian bar. It's quite easy to find. It's just down the main street where all the restaurants, like I said, is. And you can tell which street I'm talking about if you spend time there. It's pretty obvious. There's not too many other major streets in the city. Go and check out his bar. It's really cool. I had a good time there. And you'll learn a bit about AFL while you're there, which I can assure you the Japanese crowd in the bar had absolutely no idea what was going on. AFL is a weird sport to watch if you don't already know the rules. So this one's slightly different. The basic rule, or the goal is the same. You still need to defeat the boss, but you need to find your way through the doors first. So this is a tutorial introducing you to the way doors work, which becomes a mechanic that pops up a little bit through later levels in the game, especially ones that are based in castles or small towns or whatever. Anywhere urban, really, there is usually a door or two that you need to unlock. And in this case, we need to find 3 switches to open the door to the boss. But first, we need to go and meet another buddy. That very handsome fellow that I was just telling you about. This guy here. His name is Matt. That's a good name. It's an excellent name, really. You're so odd. So Matt's an intriguing character. We'll learn a lot about Matt down the track. Now we're starting to get a bit of variety in our party as well. So Matt here... Matt is talking to Matt. Matt here is a thief. Now, thieves start out pretty ineffective at combat, but later on they turn into really useful fighters. So it's one of those things where you have to try to level them up at the start of the game, or when they've just joined your party, so early on right now. But once you've leveled them up, they're actually they get better the more attention you put into them. So first time I played Fire Emblem, I had no idea that Matt was this good. I thought he was only really there to unlock doors, so I never used him, and he ended up being pretty useless. The second time around, I tried leveling him up, and he was pretty instrumental for me to be able to actually get through this game. So, there we go. So that's one of the triggers. Too many Matts. Believe me, Matt is a name that is so common, it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing, you're going to run into too many, and it gets very confusing for everybody soon enough. There we go. So, now we need to unlock this door here, and then unlock this door. There's triggers in those two, and once we find those triggers, we'll be able to unlock that room there. But for now, we actually need to do some combat. Let's get Kent out of the way because I'm not using him, as you may remember. Weapon of Choice. That's a good song. I don't know if... this is a digression again. Weapon of Choice is a Fatboy Slim song from quite a while ago now, showing my age here. But if you ever get a chance, check out the video clip because it's got Christopher Walken doing the most incredible dancing. Not a huge fan of Fatboy Slim as a general thing, but that song is excellent. Weapon of Choice. Google it. Thank you for that. That was just explaining some rules about how leveling up stuff works. It's not particularly interesting. Let's get Dorcas into this house. Dorcas got himself a door key. Dorcas with the door key. Yes, that was definitely Walken's... he had his moments. That was about the same time he did Sleepy Hollow, and he certainly did a good job of playing that one up as well. That would have been about roughly-ish the same time as Pulp Fiction too, I think. Okay, so we need to deal with that guy and then that guy. Let's get Will the Archer to do his thing. Good job, Will. Alright. Get Florina to kill him. That way I'll get the experience. I forget that Pulp Fiction's actually quite old. Yeah, it's an older film than I think it is a lot of the time because it still resonates. Main point is, of course, Christopher Walken is an excellent actor and a surprisingly good dancer. Alright, so yeah, that was a fair while ago then. I mean, especially Bruce Willis, he had his first wave come and go almost before I remember. The second wave, he never lost again since then, I think. So, yeah, I barely remember the first wave. I mean, other than Die Hard, of course. Anyway, Matthew is a thief that thinks stealing is bad. That's an interesting career choice for him then. But for now, he's playing the role of the thief nicely. I tell you what, I still reckon of the Die Hard films, I mean, obviously the first one is objectively the best, but in terms of the one that I actually enjoy watching the most, I've got to say Die Hard 3, it's got it. I'm a big fan of Jeremy Irons' role in that film. He played it up to the max. Walken's got a great style. I do miss Walken being so active in cinema. We had some quirky ones when I was growing up, watching a lot of movies. Not just Walken, also Steve Buscemi, and actually really just Walken and Steve Buscemi. Those two alone are quirky enough that we just don't have those kinds of actors so much anymore. I'm just skipping through all of that. That's just tutorial nonsense. It's just telling you what the thieves can do. Thieves are good basically for opening chests is the point. Dorcas is on his way over there. Let's visit that house because we haven't yet. So here's a little bit of an interesting thing. The Marquis hates the nomads, and yet Wrath, the captain of the guard, is a nomad. So, you know, we're delving into themes of racism here right now. And it's interesting that the Marquis has decided to offer help to Lynn, despite the fact that she is also a nomad. Yeah, guys, they would all play the weird guy. Yeah, we don't have so many. I mean, I guess Johnny Depp tried to be the weird guy in the more recent years. He kind of succeeded. I mean, he had a period where he had a purple patch when he played the weird guy pretty well. But that became a bit A bit by the book and a bit dull, to be honest, after a while. Full credit to the first Pirates of the Caribbean, of course. Yeah, Bushimi's a lot of great things, but Buffish Dude is not one of them. Oh yeah, Glenn. Yes. I'm trying to think of other quirky guys that they had do a lot of movies back then. There was certainly plenty. It was a thing. Kent's just dropping in to visit buildings. So the reason I'm not using Kent, for people that weren't following the previous streams that I've been doing, this game is a little bit unusual, I guess, as JRPGs go, that you can't grind your character levels up as you play. You are really stuck just trying to get as much experience out of each level as you can. Otherwise, you will you won't be able to make progress. Your characters won't be leveled up to the point they need to be to take on whatever map you get up to eventually, and it might happen 25 maps down the track, but there will be a point where you hit a wall and can't make any progress. You actually need to be very careful about who gets the experience points, especially in the early levels. And the reason I'm not using Kent is because he becomes basically useless later on. You don't need a whole bunch of knights, and I've already got one that's pretty well leveled up in Sane, because Sane has better attack abilities basically. So I've leveled him up, and I just don't want to use Kent, so he's not participating in any combat unless I absolutely have to use him. Oh, there was another one, maybe a little bit later on, I guess. What's his name? Luis Guzman. He was basically in everything when you needed the token Mexican guy in your films, and he always played pretty quirky stuff. He was pretty good. Might have been a little bit after the Vulcan and Bushimi era, but I always enjoyed his performances. Okay, so I'm just moving my units up, as you can see. For a similar reason that I just described, I don't actually want to use Wrath right now, because if you look at Wrath, his level is quite high at level 7. If he kills an opponent, and he probably will because he is quite high leveled, that's he'll only get a couple of experience points, which is a couple of experience points that I can't then distribute to my lower level characters. And I've never really found a place for Wrath in my parties anyway, so I don't use him. As much as I like the character and the character design, I mean, he's a dude with a bow on the back of a horse, and the horsies are so cute, I just can't find a role for him. Okay, so let's deal with this guy. Let's... so Will get that kill. That'd be Urk. Urk needs the experience. He's only level 1 at the moment. There we go. Oh, Urk. Just short. That's right. So, we'll see just how weak Matt is here. It's certainly difficult, and this Fire Emblem does not shy away from being difficult by any means. They implemented ways of leveling up characters outside of the main story missions in later Fire Emblems. I think they realised that this was a little bit hardcore for people, and the fact that people had to restart after 15 hours or whatever of play because they've leveled up their characters wrong. This was all very old school, but yeah, later Fire Emblems have done away with that system, so you don't need to worry about playing later ones if you are turned off by the progression system in this one. Good dodge there, Matt. So, Matt's done his job. Now let's get Dorcas in to finish it. Dorcas the Axeman. Boom. There we go. Good job, Dorcas. And you got a Dorky. I'll grab that off him, because I need that to get to into the door down the below. Okay, actually, let's just move Archer Man up. There we go. Okay. Oh. Yeah, that wouldn't work anymore, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately. I mean, it's a good thing that they don't do that anymore. But yeah, there are some actors that certainly did a good job with being some kind of role or whatever that just it doesn't fly anymore. Dorcas is pretty neat. Dorcas is one of the early characters that you get that still holds up later on in the game as well. Even after you get more Axemen, Dorcas is still the dude. Definitely the dude. Okay, so that's a treasure chest for Matt to grab. Dorcas can line up his axe for when I get to make the charge in there. Not much I can do right now, then wait. Oh, no, no, no. Pressed the wrong thing, nearly suspended. Nearly quit. Grab the loot there, Matt. What's he got? An Armor Slayer. So, Armor Slayers introduces... This level also introduces a couple of different alternatives to weapons. Armor Slayers are pretty useless weapons except for one particular application, which is defeating heavily armored enemies. So you need to be later on in the game anyway. You need to be pretty clever about the equipment you take into battle based on what you'll be looking at facing down the track. There we go. So Wrath did his job. Let's give Urk this experience again because he needs to level up. Come on, Urky. Torch the spear dude. There we go. Well, that wasn't very good, Urk. Just one hit point bonus. Ay, ay, ay. Alright. Earlier in the stream I said that I needed to find 3 triggers to open that room. I actually only needed to find 2, and then the 3rd trigger is in there, so that was me forgetting how this level plays out a little bit, but not by much. So what we need to do now is defeat the boss, a dude called Bool. That's a good name for a boss. And then step on that trigger to finish the level. Let's get Dorcas involved in the action again. Hello, Diddy Ram. Welcome to the stream and another entrance that I would only expect from you. I don't know what that's referring to, but yes, okay, sure, I agree. Lynn finishes them off. So now we're down to just the one boss, Bool. Bool, the armor dude. Since Bull's not going to do anything, I'm actually going to get the wizard up because Bull here is very well heavily armoured, so you kind of want to have a few people attacking him. A few of your best performers dealing with him, and then he'll go down easy. But otherwise he'll do quite a lot of damage. He's quite effective. The armoured guys are always the toughest ones to take down, for obvious reasons. But they do go down easily to magic, that's why I'm bringing Urk up. Okay, Urk, do your thing. See, you'll nearly take down Bull all by himself. They're very weak to magic. I'm not sure there is an equivalent to Miku as a husband or yet. As yet. I can't think of any that have that kind of prominence. I mean, I guess the Shinsengumi from Hakuoki are certainly attractive enough, but I don't think they have the prominence that Miku does. But people have always been making those stories up. I mean, do you remember, what was the name of it? The Konami series, Love Plus. There was a dude that married his DS when Love Plus was huge in Japan, and everybody thought that that was just hilarious. So Dorcas can get it done, or I'm pretty sure Lin can as well, using the Manikati. I'll save the Manikati, I think. Lin's level 5, Dorcas is level 4. Yep, let's level Dorcas up. Beat that boss there, Dorcas. Bang. Good job. Oh dear. Deary me. That's not a very good level up. Very disappointed in you, Dorcas. There we go. Level finished. And here we get to meet the bigot. Yeah, the sprite is certainly not ambiguous about that. He's not a pleasant looking guy, is he? Yes, but Kurosawa films are rather subtle in comparison to Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem works in very broad strokes and caricature. It's not a visual novel where they've got room to use words cleverly to explore meaning. Just you wait till we get to the actual evil force in this game. Once we get to, I won't give it away, but once we get to the evils, then we certainly see some interesting character design. This guy's just petty. That's just not a cool line, dude. Yeah, Kent's the nice guy. What's Sane a reference to, do you think? He might be evil, but at least with Sane he's got the... He does say what is truth. No discipline. Or passion. Which of the three Musketeers was like that? Was it Porthos? It's been ages since I watched the Three Musketeers or read it. I can't remember which is which anymore. I know D'Artagnan is the the aspiring one, but of the three, I know Aramis is the pious, or in theory pious one. Is he? I have to go back and read these books, I think. I love your analysis, Dithie. You're always so spot on. I quite like I quite like the author, Dumas. I quite like him. I am actually a really big fan of the Count of Monte Cristo. I've read that a couple of times actually. But yeah, I think I've only read the Musketeers once. I've seen the movie a lot of times because I quite enjoy the original Musketeers movie, not the terrible re-effort that came a couple of years ago, but the original one was quite enjoyable. Quite enjoyed The Man in the Iron Mask as well, actually. Since that's a sequel of sorts to the Three Musketeers. Anyway, after being exposed to the kind of bigotry of that Marquis, and saying now calling him a lout, Lynn has decided that she doesn't really want his help, which is fair enough. They're going to just ignore him and go on their way. Yeah, yeah, that was one of the rare good efforts, good efforts from Gerard Depardieu. Such an odd fellow is Gerard. He's Russian now, isn't he? Didn't he get Russian citizenship? He's like a full-on propagandist for for Putin. He's surreal. Yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, Fire Emblem is not subtle about these things because I don't think Fire Emblem has the words to be subtle. You've got to you got to be quite... I mean, you saw that this is only, you know, about 100 words worth of dialogue back and forth, and you've got to establish a character pretty quickly. So you need to rely on visual cues to make it clear that those people are people that you're not meant to sympathise with, or at least they're... what you know about them all kind of aligns up in, you know, even blocks. So it's quite hard to write stories with such minimal dialogue, and I think the more recent Fire Emblems do a much better job because they're more wordy, they're a little bit more expressive, so they do a much better job of being quite subtle about the various characters, not just being evil because they look evil. Now see, if Sane called him a butt, that would have been so much better. I mean, just, that would have been brilliant localization. Well, I think the game development has matured a bit in these more recent years, I think people get that now. Including, once again, Fire Emblem. If you play Three Houses, then it's pretty clear that it doesn't break things down quite that simplistically. I swear, Kent and Lynn have something going on in the background. They just have to. There's too much tension between the two for them not to be sharing a tent while on the road. What an absolute jerk. You tell him, Wrath. Oh, he made Wrath mad. I mean, I think Wrath is already inclined to be cranky. I mean, he's certainly got a very sharp look about him. Very serious fellow, this Wrath. If you put a W in front of his name, then it still works. Ha! Oh, nice smart. Well, you can certainly try it, Dithy, but I think it might not work in the really real world. I don't think those kinds of lines work anymore. Or maybe they do, I don't know. I don't know what the younger generations are back into these days. So, Wrath has decided that he doesn't particularly like the fact that he is being bossed around by Bigot either. So he's like, yeah, I'm out of here. Obviously he wasn't in a contract, so if he was, then you wouldn't have much of a choice but to stay. But he was obviously out of contract, a bit of a freelancer, which is interesting for the king, well, the Marquis guards, and he's just decided to leave, which is fair play to him. See, once again, Lynn gives Kent a compliment and then Sane's going to be like, give me a compliment too. He's such a child. Yeah, that's it. Wrath was exactly, this guy's a butt. Sane is so needy. So not only did Wrath actually just leave, he up and left, but he actually just plundered the treasury on the way out. That's a classy move. Good job, Wrath. So I'll never actually use him in battle again, but he pulled it. He pulled 5,000 gold out as well, and that's a good contribution to the cause. So the journey continues. We're about to meet some of my other favourite characters in this game. Well, one of my favourite characters. I don't know if actually she shows up in this level or the next, but the plot angle that gets her to join in is introduced in this level, this map, this quest, this chapter. I've got to remember they're called chapters, not levels in this game. So, this young kid has been seeking refuge with Farmer Man here, and Farmer Man wants nothing to do with him. We haven't even met half the characters yet, Diddy. Don't worry, there's plenty of vibrant characters. You'll find one you like yet. So, now that the boy's been thrown out, he's obviously a bit desperate for some help. And Sane pipes up again. Good old Sane. And Kent's saying what we're all thinking. See, I'm telling you, these two are bunking up. They're just... The way that they talk with one another is... It's just not... There's just no other way. There's no other way that makes sense, so... Damn straight, we're tough. And so here we go. So this is a different kind of enemy. So far, pretty much everybody that we've been fighting against has looked very thuggish. very bandit-like or very very cheap muscle-like, because they've been either bandits or the peons of Lundgren. But this guy's a little bit different. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that Kent's got the Night Zone thing going. So there was a name introduced there. Remember that. That's a useful name to remember. Oh, he's a tough guy, all right, but he's a tough guy with class. You know, he's professional. He's slick. He's assassin, or however they said it when they were the Persian mercenaries, killers for hire. The origins of the word assassin. That's what that dude's based on. So it's pretty classy, top-notch stuff. Real villains. And now they're trash talking each other, of course. Okay, so as I've been saying in pretty much all the streams so far, there is a point where you have to start picking units, and that's why I haven't been leveling up certain characters like Kent, because you can't actually take all the units into every chapter. Right now, as you can see, there are 2 units that I can't actually take into this chapter. So right now, I'm not going to be using Kent anymore. I'm taking him out. And because, like I said, I wasn't going to be using Raph either, I'm putting Matt in, because Matt is a particularly useful character that I will want to have in my party. Highly leveled towards the end of the game. And we're all set now. This is my party. I can also move the units around as I need to. So I can put Dorcas at the front because he's the muscle man, he'll get it done. And I can put the healer right at the back because I don't want her exposed to enemies, especially early on when I'm not going to need her because there's nothing that needs healing. And we're all set. Matthew's a thief. He unlocks doors and things. But he's also very good at dodging things too, actually. So he starts out in combat quite weak, but towards the end of the game, he just basically can't be hit by anything. He just dodges everything and strikes things down. Don't want her exposed to Sane. Yeah, that's true. Keep all the ladies well away from Sane. Thanks for joining in, Sean. As always, we'll see you next week, no doubt. Probably more Fire Emblem. And, yeah, thanks for joining in. So here's another mechanic that's being implemented, I guess, this time around. The shaman that we saw there announced was the dark magic user, and now he's the enemy. And now we're being introduced to Lucius, who is a monk and therefore a user of white magic. And as every fantasy fan knows, that traditionally white magic counters dark magic. Call him the Gandalf type. He's a very pretty boy. Lovely golden hair. Okay, so we already had one magic user in the party thanks to Urk, who casts the fire magic around. But now we find the monk uses lightning, which is white magic, and is really strong in dealing with the black Fang shaman here, who uses the dark magic. Now, interestingly, we actually do end up with a shaman character much later on in the game. Much later on in the game. And he's actually one of the interesting characters. So, yeah. They're actually quite useful, but you don't get one in your party for the longest time, unfortunately. And then we discover that the kid, the boy here, he's not just a weak character that you need to protect. He actually has a role to play on the battlefield as well. And it's actually one very useful ability. So he plays music, does a little dance, and then the character that's already been used can be used again, which is really tactically useful. You'll need that later on. He becomes one of the most important pieces on the board as such. You can't go into a battle without him because you really need that. But for now, let's get Matt here to finish off this enemy. Whoops. Stabby. I want to level him up as fast as I can. We'll just duck into the building, see if there's anything here for us. The Black Fang, so that classy enemy that we met earlier, they're part of a gang that we haven't heard of before, the Black Fang. It sounds very sinister. Anyone they target winds up deaded. And he's pretty terrified of them. Fair enough. Now this is, until now we've been fighting battles that have all taken place on the one map, the one screen size map. This one's actually a larger scale battle, a little bit anyway. And things are escalating pretty rapidly. So, not much there to buy, but grabbing some extra fire magic will be useful because Urk's running a little bit down. Grab one of those. There we go. And for now, let's not get the Pegasus Knight in the way of the arrows. Heal up Lynn. Use Dorcas to block out the one entrance they have to my party at the moment, because he can hold down a fort pretty well. think I better give that experience to my Pegasus Knight, since she is the least leveled of the characters in my team right now. And that's that. So now you can see the kind of flow that this game has pretty clearly. At this point, this is basically how combat works in Fire Emblem. I'll buy her another healing stave, since the last thing you want is to run out of those. Good job, Dorcas. Coming through again for us. Will. Not good, Will. Not good at all. Matt's nearly got a level, which is good. I really do like the thieves. The thief class is, as you can see, it's very hard to hit them. He's managed to dodge every attack that's come his way so far, so... So that pure water stuff, as we just quickly skipped through, that's really useful for dealing with magic users because it increases your magic resistance. So if you're using a character who's not particularly magic resistant, then that's the way to protect them when they fight against that kind of enemy. Just move all of my characters up. Tempted the enemy into attacking me. Like I said, I think on a stream quite a little while ago now, maybe the first week, I said the AI was pretty exploitable. They follow quite clear patterns, and once you're used to those patterns, you can actually take advantage of it. Like I've been able to get this enemy to come up and attack me all by them lonesomes. But that by no means means that this game is easy. It's quite a challenging game. There we go. Urk got an experience level. Hopefully it's a bit better than a single hit point increase. That's better. He's strengthened his magic, which is what I really want Urk to be good at. Oh dear, that's not good, Florina. Bad miss there. Unacceptable. I'll use the monk to get rid of him. Heal up Dorcas. And then finish him off with that. We're making pretty good progress through this map and getting some good experience for my characters along the way. Hopefully that's a good stat increase for maps. Actually not too bad. Speed's a good attribute for thieves. Makes them good at dodging things. I would have to play either of those first to have any idea which one I would prefer. Yeah, I wouldn't want to guess because one of them's probably going to make me uncomfortable. And the other one probably doesn't. What do I do? Send Matt to deal with him. Don't finish him off, but do a good bit of damage along the way. Now I haven't actually used Sane for a couple of levels now, so I better use him, otherwise he'll end up under-leveled himself, which I don't want. I do want one knight in the party to be primed and good to go, because they're quite useful characters. Oh, nearly got an experience level there, Sane. Well, I don't know if they're, I don't know if, because if you think about it, Eroge just likes to really mess with expectations, and I would have to actually play a game that used either of those as concepts before I could possibly guess, because yeah, that's an interesting space. What am I doing? As you can see, moving over mountains actually slows everything down significantly. Characters take their good sweet time to move across mountains, unless you're a Pegasus Knight. So that was the slow path to take for sure. Well, I mean, I could just do that with the visual novel maker, easily enough. I don't know if you've seen what I've actually said my next DD visual novel will be, but I've said it. So it's going to be inspired by the Marquis de Sade. So, you know, I think I'm doing what you're actually asking me to do anyway. To be honest, I think you'll be impressed with what I've come up with for that visual novel. For some reason, Pegasus Knights are quite useful against these shamans. I don't know why, but they are. I would never ask my artists to do anything they weren't comfortable with. I explain the concept to them, and it's not just, you know, a down the line thing. I'm doing interesting things with it, I hope. Being a bit subversive, if you want to put it that way. Fang got a bit injured there. Let's give that kill to Will, as long as he doesn't miss. There we go, Will. Experience level for you. Be a good one. Good strength boost. Not much there. That's alright. Now, for people watching, remember that face. It's an important face to remember. This game does a good job of kind of introducing things before they become important. It's a nice little narrative technique. We're nearly finished at this map at this point. There's only 2 more enemies to go, both of them shamans, so I'll need to have my counter ready to go. Dorcas is pretty good at taking down shamans as well, simply because he hits hard, and like all wizards, shamans don't have a lot of health going for them. Move him there and equip that. He'll get to its counter-attack because the enemy will attack him at that distance. Move Sane up there. Move Lynn. And Matt. There we go, all nicely organised. Good job, Dorcas. 2 hits. Excellent work. Okay, so now I need to pick who I want to be getting the experience levels. Dorcas is level 5, Lucius is 3, Urk is 3. That doesn't matter, he can't fight. Oh, she's only level 3. Okay, let's level her up. And now we're down to just the boss. Easy as that. Alright, so we will start by using Lucius to weaken him down. This is a pretty tough guy, this one. Old man shamans are always powerful. They've got all the magic in them. Years of study, because magic being a study thing. Alright. Good job, Florina. That was pretty low percentage chance of hitting either. 2 at 48%. That wasn't likely to work. So Will's level 5, Lynn's level 5, Dorcas is level 5, Matt's level 3. I'll give Matt the kill, I think. If you can get it. Good job, Matt. Good job. You were only striking. No, I'm pretty sure I killed you, dude. And leveled up. 2 levels in one map's pretty good. Ah, that's a good stat increase too. Good skill, good speed. Another lovely key art, although that one was over very quickly. I didn't get a chance to admire that one before the narrative actually pulled along. Remember that face too, not the girl, the red-haired guy, another important character. Oh, we're actually getting introduced with him anyway. Eliwood. He becomes a very important character later on. Another nobleman, as you can tell from his lovely clothing. He's very richly attired. So we met Eliwood. Eliwood is, like I said, a very important character later on in the story. We will see that soon enough. And we've also rescued this girl, Ninian. They have blue hair. She's a dancer. That's why she's the coolest character. And here comes Sane again. Go away, Sane. Shoo. Yeah. Everybody kind of rolls their eyes at saying at this point. Not just any dancer, a sacred dancer. That's a pretty good ability, I would say, if you can sense that something's going to be a risk to you before it happens. That's the kind of foresight I think we all wish we had. Zane's a punching bag at this point. Not that he doesn't deserve to be, but yeah. He's a punchline. He's a joke. So, this is one other mechanic that this part of the game introduces. You can actually go on a side quest if you want to, at certain points in the game where it's a completely optional mission, usually quite difficult, but the rewards are there and worth it. And frankly, given how difficult the normal missions go, you kind of have to do all the side quests anyway. You do need the resources and the experience points that they provide. So we will go on this side quest. We will definitely do so. Plus, it's the right thing to do because, you know, they've lost their treasure, and that's just not cool. Right. So after that, I think we'll call it a stop for the evening. We've done 2 more levels or 2 more chapters as they are, and we've made some pretty good progress. Met quite a few new characters actually, and we're all set to continue playing next week. Thank you very much for tuning in as always. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed playing it, and we will see you at the next one. Our next stream will be Friday night at the same time. So if you're around, Friday night Australian at the same time. Basically the same time we started this, but Friday. So if you're around, then please do jump on, and we'll be playing something a bit different, and I hope to see you there. Otherwise, have a great week.